Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Brittany. This is the Brittany Reacts Show. And today we are actually reviewing Alien Romulus, which has been the latest movie in the Alien franchise. And full disclosure, I have to admit, I'm not like super well versed in the lore of Alien. I've only seen the first Alien movie. I haven't even seen the second or any of these subsequent sequels. I didn't see Aliens versus Prometheus or whatever that was. So I came to this movie mostly from a very fresh perspective. I came into this movie really just hoping to get a good sci-fi film, a good alien thriller. I didn't really have like any baggage as opposed to like expectations from the franchise and what I wanted to see from it. So this is me just coming to this movie with like a very, very fresh perspective. And I'm saying all of that because I really like this movie. As someone with no like affinity for the franchise as a whole, I really liked this movie. I thought it was strong. I liked it a lot more than I expected to. Genuinely, I was surprised by how much I liked it. I did not, honestly, I was expecting to at most just kind of think that it was okay. Like, oh, that was solid. But no, by the end of the movie, I was like, I think this might be one of my top 5 favorite films of the year so far. Maybe even top 3. I mean, to be honest with you, you guys know I haven't really loved like a lot of the movies that have come out this year, so I don't think the bar is that high. But that is to say that I genuinely really enjoyed this movie. I really, really liked it. So I'm here to talk about it today. I've got my slides ready. We're going to go over the plot in detail. So just a fair warning, this is a spoiler review. So if you don't want to know spoilers, maybe go check out the movie first and then come back. But I am going to spoil the ending of this completely. So you have been warned. But how are you guys doing? Hi Natanya, hi Alexander, hi CD Woods, hi Jordan, hi DuBois. Hi Nate, hi Cinnamon Roll, hi Cheetah Viper. Yes, it was definitely better than Twister's Cheetah Viper, for sure. For one, they made the aliens scary, as opposed to Twister's, which just made the Twisters seem like a minor inconvenience, which was my main issue with Twisters. But yeah, no, this movie is actually genuinely creepy. If you like horror movies, if you like, you know, creepy, crawly kind of movies, monster movies, I think this will scratch that itch for you. Cinnamon Roll says, I don't really like Aliens, but I understand the appeal. It's scary, but also a classic. You know, when I originally saw the first Alien, I thought it was really good. I thought it was solid. I thought maybe you had to understand more of the context of the time it came out to like fully appreciate it, because it didn't blow me away or anything, but I thought it was a good movie. This one I really, really liked though, like a lot. Hi DuBois, did I say your name? I hope I did. But anyway, let's just get straight into the review because I have a lot of slides to go through today. Did anyone actually see it in my audience, just so I know? Am I talking to anyone who has actually seen this movie? If not, that's okay. Like I said, I'm going to try to like actually give you a lot of the plot as well. Just let me know in the chat and I'm just going to get straight into the review. So, like I said, Alien Romulus, surprisingly really, really good. Here's why I liked it just overall. Firstly, I thought the story is really, really strong. I thought the story was the best part, and you guys know I'm a story person. That's why I couldn't really get into like Deadpool and Wolverine as much as I know a lot of other people did, just because I thought the story there was really weak. But this story I thought was interesting. I liked how the ending just kept kind of building on top of itself. If you guys have ever seen that meme where it's like you know, you're watching something that makes you lean in, that was me in the third act of this movie. The whole third act of this film, I was like totally leaning in. Just like focused on the screen. I was not thinking about anything else. I was that into it. Very, very engaging film for the story alone, and that's why it worked for me. So what is the story? So the story starts off when we're on this like mining colony on some planet somewhere. Maybe it's a moon. They don't really specify, but they do specify that it's not a nice place to live, and if you're working there and you get called to the mines, it's pretty much a death sentence because you're going to get like a lung disease. That was explained right at the very beginning because the main character, who is this character here, She kind of tells you through a bit of exposition that her parents died in the mines due to lung disease. And the story starts off with her trying to get off this planet and go somewhere else because she's like earned up enough points or whatever. But then they tell her that now she needs even more points, so not only is she not going to get to leave, but they're also going to send her to the mines, which she knows is basically a death sentence. So she's like, well, I can't stay here. What am I going to do? So thankfully, she has a group of friends on this mining planet or whatever that have this idea that they're going to steal a spaceship and head up to a space station that's in orbit that has its own like escape ship full of cryopods in it, and they're just going to go into that escape ship, like stay in those cryopods, and then by the time that they're awake, they'll be in a new planet far, far away, and they won't have to go into the mines. So they decide that it's worth the trip, that it's worth, escaping this place and getting caught and whatever, just in order to get to these cryopods and have a chance at a new life. And it's quite a diverse cast, lots of different people here. I'm going to go through some of the names or some of the faces in a minute. But overall, I really liked this cast. I thought they all worked really well. They had solid chemistry. I thought they were all really good actors. Really solid cast. I liked them. Very personable. Even the guy that they tried to make seem like a jerk, I still felt bad for him. So, I liked all of them. But anyway, one of the other things I really like about this movie is that it is gorgeous. Like, the cinematography is so pretty. And I love the visual effects. The CGI is top tier. Like, I've seen so many really bad blockbusters lately where, like, the CGI doesn't look finished, or you could tell that they're trying to hide a lot of stuff because of shadows, and it just looks very ugly and murky and muddy. This was not that kind of movie. Like, it looked very finished. It looked like the visual effects artists had all the time in the world to complete what they wanted, because everything just looked really great. This is an image here of the crew docking into the space station where they're trying to get to the escape ship that has the cryopods. This space station here is also where the majority of the story takes place, because this is where they get trapped and they have to start running away from the xenomorphs. But yeah, very, very cool imagery. Lots of cool shots like this. This is one of my favorite shots of when they're lifting up from the planet, heading to the space station, and you get to see like a nice horizon of the whole planet with the rings and everything. Really, really cool stuff. Lots of cool imagery. I also really like how immersive this movie was. There were several shots in this film where they put you in the place of the characters, so it feels like you're there with them in the story, which I thought was really, really neat. And honestly, I felt like, James Cameron obviously started this franchise, and I really felt like I felt a lot of James Cameron-isms in this movie, just in the way that it was shot. Like, I definitely think the director here was paying homage to James Cameron's work in a lot of these shots, especially stuff like this. It just seems very like him to me. But anyway, very, very beautiful movie. You guys know I will be the first to call out a movie if I think it's ugly. This was not that. And it's not even like a super bright, colorful movie either. I don't want you guys to think that, like, for me to like something visually, it has to be like super bright and colorful. This wasn't that kind of movie, but it was still like just well framed, well shot, well lit. You can see everything even when it's dark. It's not just gray and muddy and murky all the time. Like, the visuals are very, very strong in this movie, which I completely appreciate. Oh, Jiminy Craftstar, you don't like that it's an immersive movie? I think that's a good thing. I love when movies make you feel like you're part of the action, and I very much felt that way since the very beginning. Even when they were still on the mining colony. The way that the mise-en-scène with the set and everything it felt like you were on the colony with them. I really appreciated it. Androia says the CGI for that one android is bad though. I disagree, Andres, but I mean, we're welcome to disagree. I really thought the CGI was strong in this. And I think it's, like Cinnamon Roll says, it's very rare these days to see a movie where the CGI is actually a strong point. I would say that's a strong point for this movie. A lot of you have not seen it though, so I'm going to have to do a lot of explaining with the story and everything. That's okay. Oh, Rachel saw it though, so that's great. No, you're not late, Concert Master. Oh, Content Master says you heard that the last 10 minutes are the worst, though. Yeah, I will say the very, very end, there's something that happens that I didn't like, and I'll explain that once we get to the end. But let me work. Let's get to the end before we talk about that. So anyway, they get up to the space station where they're trying to get to the escape pod. And this is where everything, of course, starts to go wrong. Now, firstly, I really like that the majority of the movie does take place on the space station because it gives it a very claustrophobic, contained feel. And I should also say that they're on a time crunch at the same time. So not only do they have to get through this entire space station to get to the escape pod that has the cryo chambers in it, but they have to do that in a certain amount of time before the space station actually crashes into the rings. So they find out once they're on there that they only have like X amount of time before the whole space station crashes into the ring. So that adds not only a claustrophobic element to the movie, but also like a time cap to the movie. So like everything has to be done by a specific time, which I think added to the tension and the stakes a lot. Really, really interesting. So, of course, as they're walking around, they discover that this place is actually filled with these baby xenomorphs, these aliens, and all hell breaks loose, as you can imagine. Now, one of my favorite characters, probably my ultimate favorite character in this movie, was this guy. Loved this guy, loved him a lot. He's a synthetic, so he's a robot. But what's interesting about him is that his entire directive at the beginning of the movie is just to take care of her, our main character. And these two have like this very sweet like brother-sisterly relationship, even though only one of them is human. But what's interesting here is that while they're on the ship, they come across a dead synthetic on the ground, and they decide to put the chip that's in the dead synthetic into him, just so they can find out what happened to the past crew that was on this spaceship. Because as they're walking around, they realize that the whole place is deserted. They don't really know what happened to the crew beforehand. So they decide to put the chip from the dead synthetic into Andy here. That's his name. But the new chip completely overrides his old directive, and his new directive becomes just do whatever the company wants. And you find out what the company wants, and this is a big spoiler, is to actually transfer this new strain that they were working on, that they got, that they were doing experiments on the aliens, and they discovered that they had something in their blood that, if injected into a person, could give them like ultra human abilities. Basically, they were trying to make human evolution go faster. You know, very evil scientist stuff. So his new directive, once they put the chip into him, is to make sure that these vials full of this antidote make it off the ship, no matter the human cost that's with them. So the whole movie becomes about the bad synthetic name is David. Oh, thank you, Alexander. So the whole movie becomes about like how much is life really worth, or how much is just one life really worth? Because there are several points in this movie where this character, Andy, has to make a decision on who's going to live and who's going to die. And he always chooses the side on what's going to get the most amount of people to the ship so that they can get this antidote off of the ship and like secure the company mission. So in doing this, he becomes kind of sociopathic in a way. And for what I mean by that is, say, for example, this character here, she's kind of the first to go. Because she gets attacked by a face hugger. She's actually the one that's on like the cover that I used. She gets attacked by a face hugger, and everyone in the rest of the group is trying to save her, and they even figure out a way to freeze the thing so that they can like pull the face hugger off of her. But after they do that, the evil version of Andy is like, oh, we shouldn't take her. We shouldn't bring her onto the ship because she could be impregnated and she could attack all of us and we'd all be at risk. But they're all like, no, we can't leave anyone behind. How could you dare suggest such a thing? But so they try to take her with her. But that doesn't work out very well because then once they actually get to the ship, she starts to feel very weird, and she's like, what's going on here? And little do they know, of course, she's got one of those things growing out of her, and she pops out of her chest, you know, alien style. She dies, and that, of course, just like completely traumatizes one of the other girls that's part of the group, who's also pregnant, by the way. So there's like another added layer of tension, because you're like, oh, this woman is pregnant, and like now there's two people that really need the help. But anyway, very, very creepy and disgusting scene. Super cool though. But it just kind of, this was the first scene where we kind of see that, like, even though Andy could be a little heartless, he's also right. So it kind of set it up so where in the rest of the movie, anytime Andy says something where he's like, we should really leave that person behind, or we should really do this, or for another example, there's a scene where that same lady who's pregnant gets stuck in a room behind a door, and like the only person that can open the door is Andy, but he's like, no, I'm not opening that door because the xenomorph behind her is going to come through and kill us all. So again, he chooses to save the group in order to sacrifice one of the others. And he makes this choice constantly throughout the movie. So even though he seems really heartless, he keeps being rewarded by being right. So one of the reasons why this character ended up becoming my favorite of the movie is because every time he's on scene, every time he's on the screen and he says something, you know he means it and something serious is about to happen. So he has this like almost like ominous godly quality about him, where it's just like, you better listen to him. You're not gonna like what he's gonna say, but you better listen to him, even though he comes across like kind of heartless because he's a robot, and he now has this override with like the evil robot in his neck. But anyway, really, really cool character. I like all of this like life versus death stuff that was going on throughout the movie. Really, really cool, but also made for some really like heartening scenes, like the scene where the pregnant lady is like banging on the door, like, let me through, and he's just like, I can't, I'm sorry. And they're all just like crying and yelling at him like, let her through, and he won't do it. Really, really good stuff. Love this kind of stuff. That's the kind of like emotional angle, this is the kind of story stuff that gets me. I don't care too much about like cool cameos or funny gags or whatever. Like, I love a good story, I love a good script. This movie had a really, really tight, fun script. Yeah, Natanya, he's very, very blunt. Isabella Merced, yes, sorry, that's her name. The actress was really good. She didn't really have like a ton to do in this movie, but whenever she was on screen, she had an impact. So yeah, she was really good in this movie. But anyway, like I said, the third act is probably the best part of this whole movie, because the whole time, this group of people, they're just trying to get to the escape pod where they can get away from the ship and away from all of these aliens, but they keep running into obstacle after obstacle after obstacle, and they keep losing people in the process. So by the time they get to the end, where they have this one last hallway to walk through to where they can finally get to their escape ship, not only is the entire cave covered in aliens and xenomorphs and baby face huggers, but like there are also only like 2 of them at this point. It's basically just the main character and the synthetic. Like, they all died at this point, so you're gonna see lots of cool, gruesome deaths anyway. But this scene was also really, really neat, because there's a big action sequence at the end where all the xenomorphs start coming to life, or they start awakening and stuff. They have to fight a lot of them at the same time. And so what they do is they like cut off the anti-gravity thing, and so they start like floating in space in order to try to get away from them. And as she's shooting them, they're like, I don't know if you guys know this, but when you shoot a xenomorph, they kind of like almost explode, and their blood becomes really acidic, so you have to try to avoid them. So the whole like last final action sequence is them like shooting at these xenomorphs floating in space while they're trying to avoid acid as they're like trying to rush their way to an escape ship. And it's as cool as it sounds. It's very, very neat and very visually interesting, like fight sequence. Really, really cool stuff. Really, really neat. They also, while they were in this tunnel, they noticed on the sides they have like the xenomorphs had like had kind of, what's the word, cocooned, maybe, in a way, a lot of the dead people from the ship that had been there in the past. And as they were walking through this tunnel, they actually run into Elizabeth Merced, the pregnant lady. But she's not dead yet. They do take her, even though this was another mistake. They should not have done that. Because by the time they finally do get up to that ship, she gives birth, but the baby is now some weird concoction between a xenomorph and a human baby. And this is another really gross sequence. Sorry for all the blood. This is only suggestive of what that birth sequence was like. Really gruesome stuff. But also kind of cool. So a lot of the reason why a lot of people don't like the last 10 minutes is because majority of the movie is all about them trying to fight their way to get to this escape pod, and they actually end up doing that. And because they end up finding the pregnant lady in the hallway or whatever, there end up being 3 of them left by the end of the movie that are in the escape pod. But because the pregnant lady ends up giving birth to a demon child, that's all I can really describe. I mean, if you guys want to know what it looks like, this is what he looks like. I hate to maybe scar you a bit, but like, this is what her baby looks like. He grows really, really quickly. So he turns into like this full-grown, like, alien baby, whatever. So you think they're all gonna be safe, you think they're all gonna be okay, and then this woman gives birth to this monstrosity, and so they have one more xenomorph thing that they have to fight. So this is all within the last 10 minutes. This is why I think a lot of people probably didn't like the ending. It's because the movie feels like it ends at one point, and you're like, oh yay, they made it! And then it keeps going, and then you have a whole new baddie to fight, and it's this guy. It's just like, wait, what happened? And not only that, but like, poor guy just like gets you this whole time. Like, this character, I don't know if this is the same with every audience, but this, for my audience, this character truly did become like the fan favorite. Because when, at the very end, you're like, oh yay, he made it, he actually survived. Because it didn't seem like he was going to survive for a while there. Because all the human characters, besides the lead actress, just kind of wanted to get rid of him. Because they were like, oh, he's a synthetic, he's just a sociopath, I don't like him. But anyway, she decides she's going to like come back and save him. And she swaps out the chip, so now he's his regular Andy self. And it seems like they're all going to make it together and everything's going to be alright. But then the last minute, you get this freaking creepy alien dude. And he like slashes his neck, kills his mother. And then it's now just left to the one chick. I forgot the lead character's name, I'm sorry. It's now left to her to like defeat this guy and try to get away from everyone. And you're just like, but wait a minute, I thought we were going to have a happy ending. But instead, we get left with like a very ambiguous ending where we don't really know what happens to him. It looks like the Elizabeth Merced's character is dead. And it's just like, but wait, it looked like for a minute there we were going to have a happy ending. And then it kept going for another 10 minutes. And now we don't even know like the status of these characters by the end of the movie. That was kind of a bummer. That's like the one thing I don't like. And I can see why a lot of people would maybe sour to this movie just because of the ending. The ending makes it seem like they very much are planning on a second one because it leaves too much open-ended. It leaves a lot of like, oh, maybe he'll be okay, or maybe, like, I mean, literally the ending of the movie ends with the woman doing a voiceover saying like, I don't even know if I'm gonna reach my target destination or if I'm gonna wake up from this cryo sleep. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't even know if, you know, Andy's gonna be okay. And like, it literally ends on so many open-ended questions, and you're just like, but 10 minutes ago it seemed like everything was okay. So yeah, I can see why the ending would be very frustrating for some people. Anyway, overall I thought the story was really strong. Again, not only is she trying to fight off this weird demon baby creature at the very end, but like, I told you guys at the beginning that this whole space station is doomed to crash into the rings of the planet. So this starts to happen all at the same time. So we get this really cool sequence at the end where like the space station's crashing into the rings, but like she's fighting the aliens and she's trying to get away. The whole third act is just like adding layer after layer after layer of like obstacles that the character has to get through, and it's just every time you think she finally won, there's something else that she has to deal with, and it's all starting to happen at the same time. Really, really cool stuff. I thought it was really neat. I just don't like how it ended so open-ended with some of the characters, particularly this one, because he became like such a cool, interesting character by the end of the movie. So yeah, very, very annoying. But overall, I thought the majority of the movie is so strong. I thought the visuals were so strong. I thought the story was strong. I love that it was a tight script that you can tell was like written before they started shooting. I hate that that's like a bare minimum now, but it's true. How many movies have we heard where they're just like filming and they don't even know how the movie's gonna end? I felt like this was not that movie. I felt like the script was so tight that they must have had a clear vision going into it, which I really appreciated. Yeah, because I really like this character and the final third act, overall, I'm gonna have to give this a 9 out of 10. I really, really like this movie, like a lot, way more than I expected. Super cool visuals, some really interesting fight sequences, super scary also. Like, these aliens are not to be played with. Like, the xenomorphs are very genuinely scary. Like I said with Twisters, something I didn't like with Twisters was that they made the tornadoes seem not that scary. And I was like, that's the whole appeal for me. No, they made the aliens genuinely terrifying, like something you should fear, and I appreciate that. They weren't misunderstood. They weren't like not that bad. There wasn't one xenomorph that was secretly one of the good ones. Like, no, they were just evil and just mean for no reason. And I really like that about them. The xenomorphs are really cool in this. But anyway, like I said, 9 out of 10. I thought it was really strong. Really, really strong. Just didn't like some of the open-endedness of the ending. I wish the movie had confirmed that he was okay at the end, and I think I would have maybe even given a 9.5. That's how much I liked it. But yeah, because of that last 10 minutes, I had to knock it down a little bit. But overall, I still think the movie is very, very strong. Really liked it. What did you guys think about the movie? Did you guys understand the plot? Should I explain that well? Do you have any other questions about the movie? Anyone else who maybe joined on, have you seen it? What did you think? Oh, and Joyous, you thought the CGI deepfake with the alien. Yes, I forgot to mention. So there was this evil android that was kind of feeding Andy all of this information on trying to, like, basically screw over the humans in the group in order to try to save the samples that I was telling you guys at the beginning, so they can get the samples onto the escape ship and run away. Which, by the way, is another thing they don't really explain what happens to in the end. Like, the samples do make it onto the escape ship with the main girl. But, like, and she injects herself with one of the samples, too. And, like, we don't really get to see how that affected her much. So I feel like that's another open-ended thing, but like at least they did end up on the escape ship. So if we had a number 2, maybe they would go into what happened with that. I don't know. But they did bring back an actor from the first movie, but they do what they did in like Rogue One, where they have like a CGI version of him. So it's a deep fake of the guy. I thought the CGI on that was actually pretty good. I didn't mind that. But yeah, it was, knowing that the guy is not with us is a little creepy, because I didn't even know that. I didn't know that while I was watching it. I found that out after the fact. So yeah, a little creepy. But I thought his character was really menacing. He kind of reminded me of Hal from 2001: A Space Odyssey, but in human form. Kind of interesting, evil android kind of character that was like acting like the devil on Andy's shoulder the whole time. Really, really cool. Liked him a lot. Yeah, one of the more interesting characters in the show. I actually think I like the synthetic characters more than the human characters. I thought the robots were really interesting in this movie. But anyway, really, really liked this movie quite a bit. Thoughts on the movie at all? Anything? And Joyous, you had fun overall, but you thought it had some flaws. Yeah. Concert Master says, your overall Aliens franchise ranking given that I haven't watched all of them. That's what I was saying at the beginning. I actually have not seen all of the Aliens movies. I've only seen the first one and now this one, so I feel like I have a lot of Aliens movies to go back and watch. Red Banana Green says, I am not into Aliens. I'd rather watch Wolves, Raised by Wolves instead. I tried watching Raised by Wolves. Yeah, that was okay. It was a bit slow for me, but I can see why people would like it. Alexander Padilla says, hope David Johnson gets more work off of this, and his breakthrough performance was amazing. Oh, David Johnson, was that my favorite character? Him? I should have looked up the actor's name. I'm sorry, that's on me. But yes, really, really interesting. I really hope to see this actor in more work. He was by far the standout of this movie for me personally. Without him, I don't know if I even would have liked this movie as much. He really was like the main draw for me in this film. Go see it just for his performance and his character alone. Really, really fun stuff. Just from the fact that he was like this sort of tortured synthetic at the beginning, where it's like very clear that other people are kind of mistreating him just because he's a robot. But then he gets like this new chip that kind of makes him a little sociopathic, but also a little based because everything he said proved to be true and right. But then at the very end, the main character tries to save him, and they have this sweet heart-to-heart. It's like, oh, I care about you. I still care about. I don't care that you're a synthetic. And it's just a very interesting character arc to have for one person. I really liked him. Rachel says, I really enjoyed it. The story really kept me interested. Yes, the story, this movie kind of reminds me a bit of like Godzilla Minus One. I still think Godzilla Minus One is a lot better. But the two remind me of each other in the fact that they're both monster movies where I think traditionally people would have cared more about the monsters, and it would have been more about like just the creepy thrills and stuff like that. But both of these movies, what they have in common is the story is actually interesting in its own right. Like, you care about what's happening to the characters as much as you care about what's happening with the aliens. It's not all just about the aliens and the spooky stuff. Like, the characters are interesting too, which I really liked. Red Banana Green says he's a fan favorite. Oh, that's great. That's great. Du Bois says, I only saw the first Alien film a few weeks back after digging up a DVD copy of it. Scary AF, but I loved it. Yeah, a lot of people really like it. We mean never confirmed. And Joyous says, both Alien and Aliens movies made you care for the characters. Yes. Yeah, like I said, there were several moments in this movie where I was like, I can see James Cameron's influence on this. I don't think he was a producer at all, but I think the director was definitely looking at James Cameron's work and like trying to emulate his style a little bit. Maybe even in some of the storytelling too, not just in like the shooting aspect. But anyway, really liked this movie. Liked it way more than I expected. Very surprising for me. Strong story, strong script, some really interesting characters, great CGI and visual effects, great visuals and generally. Third act is fire, maybe minus the last 10 minutes. Some really good stuff overall. Honestly, my minor issue was just I didn't like some of the ambiguousness of the ending, but still really good overall. Any questions about the movie before we wrap things up? Because that's all I really got for today. You know, I really hope that we do get a sequel to this. I want to know what happens with these characters. I'm now invested. Oh, it reminds me of The Creator? I actually think this was better than The Creator. I liked The Creator when I saw it, but I have to admit, like, it didn't stick with me at all. I didn't really remember much of it after the fact, but I think I'll remember this movie. Yes, Godzilla Minus One is amazing. Godzilla Minus One is still my favorite movie of, like, the 2020s, probably. Like, I really love that movie. Brotato Josh says, most, if not all alien facehugger scenes were practical. Yes, lots of practical effects in this, which I think is probably why the CGI works so well, because it wasn't used everywhere for everything. Like, it was used appropriately to accent the practical stuff. Like, a lot of the sets were also practical too. So I appreciate how much of this movie was done practically. I do think that also helped with how good it looked visually. Cinnamon Roll says, what was your favorite part of the movie? Oh, man. It's gotta be the ending when they're, like, all shooting each other in, like, space as the zero gravity thing was on, and, like, they're having to swirl around to avoid all of the toxic liquid and stuff. That was cool. That the whole, like, third act really was really cool to me. But anyway, that's it. I hope you guys go see it. I hope you guys check out this movie. I thought it was really interesting. Really enjoyed it. More than I expected. I don't really usually like monster movies, so for me to like this movie, it means the story must be really good, and it is. So I highly recommend you go check it out. If you do, please let me know on Twitter what you think. Please make sure you subscribe for more videos, and I'll see you guys on Thursday with my next live stream. See you again. I'll see you then. Bye.